What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to another week of Pat's Interference. I'm going to get right into it. I can see that you can see. We have a new, or I shouldn't even say new co-host. You've done this before.
Yeah, back in 2017.
Was it 2017?
Pat was still in Orlando.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
I came down for spring break, and he was like, we're doing the podcast. You want to join? And I was like, sure. And we had to be on opposite ends in different rooms of his apartment for, like,
I don't remember what I was doing but I remember you doing it, yeah.
I think I literally did from like the voice audio on my on my computer. I didn't it was no special setup or anything. It was just like.
Well, you filled it admirably that day. But I'm Patrick Brickman. This is Parker Rhoads, and this is Pat's Interference, a college football podcast. We do a lot of stuff, though. We talk a lot of stuff, and we encourage you to talk along with us in the comments and ask along and engage with us. But yeah. So Parker. For the people that haven't listened in the last 6 years, tell the camera a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Parker Rhoads. I've known Patrick Norwood since we were 15, 14 years old. We've known each other since high school. Grew up together, went to Alabama together. We're roommates at Alabama and have obviously kept in touch and remained really good friends. I met you, when was it? Probably high school or college.
Probably my junior year.
Yeah, I was
going
to say my sophomore year.
Had to have been your sophomore year.
And we just kind of met through Patrick and.
But then we took an accounting class together.
We did.
Without Patrick. I
completely forgot about that.
Which you were very good. I was awful at accounting. I actually was a pretty good student. Most of my schooling years, accounting may have been my worst class ever, and you helped me make a C in it.
Yeah, that class helped me learn that I didn't want to be an accountant.
It helped me learn that very quickly.
I knew
that was just my minor.
I was in business. I knew I wanted to do business, and then that class came around, and I was like, I've chosen not this.
So Parker's an old friend, but he's a new neighbor because you moved to Durham July,
August, beginning of August. Yeah,
beginning of August. So he hasn't been in Durham very long. How have you liked Durham so far?
Yeah, it's good. I live a little bit outside of the actual city, so I haven't unfortunately gone into the city a whole lot.
Soon.
Yeah, we need to spend more time out there. But yeah, I've liked it. It's been great. Gone to Bulls games and being able to actually hang out with you guys because it's been about 4 or 5 years since we've really been able to.
Yeah, you were living across the pond for a while.
Oh yeah. So when I moved back, I knew I wanted to go somewhere where I knew people, and Durham with you and Pat being here was kind of one of the obvious choices. So,
well, we're glad you're here. But one thing I do hate about you moving here is that I'm no longer the person in Durham that's known Patrick Norwood the longest, which is annoying because I was always like, I've known him longer than anybody here, and I used to get to flex that. But no, you've known him the longest. Since you guys were high school buddies, you guys lived together in college. I have a really important question for you, and more for the podcast list, the thousands of them that have now joined us, approaching millions. And we are all dying to know a little bit about what Patrick Norwood was like in high school.
Oh God!
Tell us about high school Patrick Norwood. I'm sure he was a little pill.
Honestly, you know how he is right now. Basically the exact same, except in child form. He really hasn't changed that much. Like sense of humor, just mannerisms, how he is. Very serious in certain situations, but then doing the podcast, very serious, and then you know him outside, and he's just off the chains and passionate about college football, Alabama, obviously, and but yeah, I mean, the only real difference is we were immature, stupid high schoolers. Now we're immature, stupid adults, and that's about it.
Well, speaking of Norwood, he's not here this week because he is in Europe. If you watched last week, you saw Mary Caroline Sharp, my girlfriend, fill in. Now Parker's here, and he's in Europe, but he did leave us with a little bit of wisdom. Let me try to cue that up. I get to say cue that up, which is kind of fun.
Amazing.
But yeah, he sent us a video, I believe in an Irish pub. Somewhere really cool. You're going to hear a lot of cool music while he's doing it because he was at a pub. But yeah, let's check in with him. He's going to tell us his thoughts on last week.
Okay, so 2 things I want to mention just for this podcast. I realized I released too many videos last week. That's insane. I should never do that again. You all are here to hear Brick, and that's pretty much it. So first things first, Alabama dominated LSU. I don't want to hear anything else. Jalen Milroe played out of his mind. We finally saw a game from him that we wanted to see for a long time, that we were hoping to see against Texas, but that's why you play a full college football season. all I want to say about that, because I know Brick's going to go into it way more in depth than I will, the Dallas Turner hit is unnecessary roughness. I don't think it's roughing, or it's targeting. I'm fine with that. It sucks. That's what it was. It sucks. It sucks that LSU's best player was hurt. It sucks that his throwing momentum takes him to the left side of his body, and that's kind of it. It sucks that Dallas Turner hit him on that side of his shoulder. It is what it is. Outside of that was a great game by Alabama. It's a complete game. That's what Saban wanted to see. The crowd was really awesome. I'm sorry if the pub music is a little bit too hard here in Ireland, but it is what it is. The second thing I want to bring up, and Brick, something I want to ask you about, is the Michigan thing now. Like, at what point is it just too much? Like, at what point are we just done with this? Because the rule clearly states you cannot record any facet of any game against anyone. You can go to CFB Nerds on Twitter if you don't believe me. That is on the NCAA rulebook website, okay? That is their rulebook, and they say you can't do it. And yet this kid, look, I know he resigned. Michigan's still at fault. At some point, you have to take responsibility. And what is college football all about? It's about building better people, right? This is what they say. And I'm not saying that this is what's true. What they're saying is they're building better people to be better human beings all around. And if we continue with this Michigan thing, that's not what we're doing. We're letting people cheat, letting people get away with it. We're pushing, you're passing the bill off to somebody else. So no, I don't believe this thing with Michigan. Also, imagine a world where you have, because this is very realistic, mind you, a one-loss Washington and Oregon, who the losses are to themselves. So one loss to Georgia, whose losses to Alabama. Or one loss to Alabama, whose losses to Texas, whose losses to Oklahoma, who doesn't matter anymore because Texas wins the Big 12. Okay, let's sort that out. And then you have a one-loss Michigan, who's lost to an undefeated, a one-loss to Ohio State, whose loss is to an undefeated Michigan. And if that's the case, how do you keep Michigan in after all of this? How do you take one of those teams out who has played clean, or at least, we're not idiots here, has at least played to a point where they're not going to get caught, right? How do you keep those people out and keep an undefeated Michigan in when you have physically caught them cheating? So, Brick, I want to hear from you. I cannot wait to be back on next pod. I hope you have a good week. I love you very much. All the listeners, I love you very much as well. That's all. Goodbye.
So, the main things he hit on there, the Dallas Turner hit in the Alabama game. He talked a bit about that. He talked about Michigan, what the NCAA needs to do about Michigan, and a couple other things. We'll be touching on all that as we go along. We'll touch first on that Dallas Turner hit. But before we get into college football, let's get a little NCAA going.
All right. I have not played this game in
it's
maybe a decade.
We'll
be real
set it
bad.
up. So what do we want to do here? We're not going to do the online dynasty right now. I'm going to wait another week for Norwood to get back since we just actually started our second year in that. I don't want him to miss out too much on it. Do we want to play as Alabama, or do we want to do a completely different? Okay, we'll do Alabama. Yeah. And
either Iron Bowl or against Tennessee. I would love to beat Tennessee right now.
We'll put Tennessee on for you since you're a Franklin, Tennessee guy. Let's see, they're the T's, and we'll throw that on. I'll have to cut all this part out of the actual podcast. By the way, I haven't even mentioned this yet, but we will take this stream and we'll put it on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Or if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, we thank you for listening there as well. I actually don't know what difficulty it's on. I'm going to assume it's on regular. I'm going to hope it's on regular. But
yeah, I'm going to be bad either way.
Yeah, so let's start it up. And let's make it a night game. Oh, okay, this is where we set the difficulty. We can do varsity. Since you haven't done it in a minute. We'll do a light game with heavy snow. Just kidding. We don't round right there. We'll just make it foggy. 8 p.m.
Has there ever actually been snow in Bryant-Denny during a game?
Great question. I have no idea. I don't think so.
I think that there has been.
There's no way, right? Here, we'll let you start with that. Okay, so now while we get this loaded up, I'm going to start talking about some college football, or we're going to talk about it together. We had really two games that could quantify as game of the week. I think you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll start with the main one since we're talking Alabama, and I do think game day was in Tuscaloosa. This was the game of the week, although Washington USC was another really good game. But so Alabama beats LSU 42-21. 28. 42-28 was the final score. And you and I watched that together.
We did.
We've actually watched as many games together as we've not watched, I want to say.
Probably, yeah. I think we didn't watch Ole Miss because I was out of town, and maybe one other, but the rest of them we've watched together. Yeah.
Hell of a game, especially the first half.
Amazing.
Yeah. The first half was about as good of a first half of football as I've watched it along. Just with the stakes and the rivalry and everything, and the quarterbacks going back and forth, lots of offense, very little defense.
Yeah.
In that first half, and we'll start there. I mean, really riveting football. What do you think of what happened in the first half of that Alabama LSU game?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, as a Bama fan, the first half especially was like ridiculously stressful.
It was.
But like afterwards, looking back on it, it was objectively one of the best games of the season. Like not just an Alabama game, like of any team.
There were 3 or 4 of those best games, quality of the season, but. The second half, we've been joking all season long on the podcast. Anytime we talk about Alabama, I hate the phrase "a tale of two halves." I feel like it got overused, and I worked in sports media, and it was one of those phrases that anchors and producers would lean on. We'd always say "tale of two halves," and it would wear. But really, that is what Alabama has been.
Oh God, that was bad.
It's hard to avoid the "tale of two halves" moniker with this team because they come out. I don't even want to say Alabama started slow. Would you qualify that?
Again, I hate that too. Like it's just one of those like phrases that everybody says, but at the same time, like it's kind of true until this game. This was the most complete game that I think Alabama's played.
Yeah, aside from the cupcake Middle Tennessee State Week 1 game, this is by far the most consistent good football they've put together in 60 minutes of football.
Yeah,
It wasn't perfect, and it never will be against LSU, but it was a heck of an effort. And really the story of the game are the two quarterbacks, right? Yeah. Jaden Daniels, especially in that first half, looked like he was really going to put him in position to win the Heisman. If they won, he was playing the type of game that wins Heismans in college football.
For sure. Like
beating Alabama in Alabama is one of the quickest ways to guarantee that trophy.
If they had won that game, it was his to lose. Like he was winning that Heisman unless he did something ridiculous.
And if I told you going in that LSU wouldn't punt, I don't believe they punted except maybe once. What chance would you have given Alabama to win that game if I told you that LSU punted once?
Oh, like 5%, 10%, almost nothing.
But here's the difference. Jalen Milroe, who we have not spoken too glowingly of this year. Nobody really has spoken too glowingly of him because he hasn't played at that level, but he matched Jaden Daniels, the Heisman leader, probably coming into Saturday, drive for drive. It was insanely impressive what he was able to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that like if Milroe had played the way that he played in that game the entire season, he would be the Heisman frontrunner. He played pretty much a perfect game as a quarterback in the SEC. Like he four touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, 4 on the ground, and he was hitting his passes. I mean, he didn't have any turnovers. He didn't really throw any insane balls that I thought he had that one miss. Remember the wide open touchdown that he missed? And you hate to see that, but he followed that up a few plays later with a scramble touchdown, which means he covered that up pretty well. But what do you think it was the fact that they called plays for him? Do you think it was a confidence thing, a decisiveness thing, game planning? What flipped that switch? Because we haven't seen that version of him.
I honestly think it's a combination of everything. I think he finally got confidence to run the ball, but I think part of that is Tommy Rees started calling his number, and was like, you can do this, like you have the ability to run the ball, so go ahead and do it, and he did. Given that opportunity, like he played out of his mind.
Say you haven't played in a while, you've got a nice little drive going here.
We'll see.
I don't want to jinx it, but I mean, you're moving the ball.
Watch me throw a pick on this play.
Maybe. That's exactly what happens every time we start talking like that. But no, I mean, we've been waiting.
Like that.
There it is.
Immediate.
I'm gonna let you play the defensive drive too to let you get your wheels
I'm even
worse. We've been begging him to run the ball, and we didn't know if it was a Tommy Rees not calling run plays for him.
He just all season looked tentative.
Tentative to run.
He was so scared to run.
That's really been one of my biggest complaints about him as a quarterback, is everything he does seems like he doesn't believe in what he's doing. Seems like he's trying to avoid getting chewed out. I have to think that somebody pulled him inside and said, do what you do. If you don't, we don't win this game.
Yeah.
Just play. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. We're not putting in Simpson or Buckner. You're good.
You are the guy.
Stop looking over your shoulder.
You have the legs to like make this work, so go out and do it. And whatever they said to him, it worked.
And he is that top tier level scrambler. He is a Jaden Daniels level scrambler.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to put him in Lamar Jackson territory necessarily, but he's that next tier below what a Lamar Jackson or Mike Vick. I mean, he's not far off of that either. Now, throwing wise, he's definitely no Lamar Jackson or Mike Vick.
He has a lot of work there.
And he still needs to work on that. We were even saying during the broadcast he's probably a beat or two slow.
Yeah.
You know, when he's trying to pick up.
And he has too many situations where he overthrows, like the wide open touchdown that he missed.
But this isn't even the week to complain about that, because he easily just played the best game of his career. And
sure.
what I call, if you take in the circumstances of the game and where the game was and take the proper context, that is one of the best performances that a Nick Saban quarterback has had.
Yeah.
It was gutsy.
It was up there with the best of Tua's performances, or Jalen Hurts.
It was. And we won that game because of the way he played is the reason we won that game. The defense played really well the second half, but we don't win that game if Jalen Milroe doesn't take that
100%. Like, have we ever had a Bama quarterback that you can remember that scored 4 touchdowns on?
No, actually, I believe Norwood's in the comments telling us that that's the Alabama record.
Like, that's wild. He played out of his mind.
Anyway, so Milroe with a performance that put him on the map national-wide. I mean, he's now in the top 6 or 7 of Heisman. He's not going to win Heisman, but he's in the national conversation. But the other quarterback, so Jaden Daniels was doing very similar things. Yeah. And unfortunately, with 7 minutes left in the game, he took that hit from Dallas Turner. I'm actually going to tell the full story because I feel like the full story needs to be told. He was down on the floor, and they went to commercial and came back. So it was definitely in that 5 minutes range.
It was a while,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a while. He was down, face down for a lot of it. Eventually, they turned him around. He even still looked limp as they turned him around. Then he sat up. He looked woozy. He went to the sideline. Garrett Nussmeier comes in. He runs one play, and then Daniels trotted right back out.
Yeah.
And we were both sitting in this living room going, what the hell's going on?
You cannot do that.
And I immediately had flashbacks to what I saw with Tua in the Bengals game and after the Bills game. And I was nervous, and not because I wanted him out of the game, and it's going to sound like that because I'm an Alabama fan, but he didn't. I mean, he clearly wasn't fit to play football, and he went out. Luckily, somebody.
He very clearly came down on his head, like on the back of his head. Yeah. I was like, you did not look at him.
I would love to know who decided on the LSU sideline to call that timeout and take him out of the game for good where he belonged, because they probably saved a lot of hell that would have come Brian Kelly's way.
They saved somebody's job. Somebody was getting fired if he stayed in there, and obviously that doesn't compare to, like, he could have injured himself way worse, but like that was just a dumb decision.
I don't know what would happen if he'd taken another hit. I mean, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But for some reason, nobody's talking about the fact that he came back out on the field. All anybody wants to talk about is the hit that Dallas Turner played on him. I don't have it queued up or anything, but you can go look at it yourself. There's been a lot of back and forth from fan bases about whether or not it was a legal hit, whether it should have been penalized at all, or should have been called targeting. Was it dirty? Was it not? A lot of discussion about this one hit. You heard Norwood during his video talk about, he was saying that he didn't think it was targeting. It was roughing the passer. And I do think that is where most people are landing on it.
See, I disagree. I don't even think it was roughing the passer.
Okay.
Like, so he came in and his momentum carried him in there. You look at it at slow motion and you could call anything.
It always looks like roughing the passer in slow motion.
But at full speed, at full speed, he is at a full sprint. Nobody blocking him basically. So he's at full speed when he hits him, and it's a split second from the time the ball leaves his hand to contact. Like it wasn't even roughing the passer. He caught him upper chest to chin area. No crown of the helmet, no anything. Like he basically came up into him, and I don't think it should have been called
I agree with you there on the bang bang of it. I don't know the rule on any. Okay, because I know in the NFL, if you make any contact with the quarterback's head, right, with your hand, with your elbow, with any, if you touch his head, that's a penalty, right?
Yeah.
Now I do know that the top of his helmet hit the bottom, I suppose, the face mask-ish area of Daniels' helmet. If that's what caused the call, then I agree with it. I don't know that timing-wise it was there. Sometimes I believe they do just call hard hits still, but I guess I'll take over. Anyway, I don't agree that it was targeting, that he needed to leave the game, and they reviewed it and they didn't call it targeting. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. I think Norwood pretty much covered it on his end, but
yeah. At the end of the day, it was unfortunate that he got hurt because it was such a good game. Like
I was really bummed. I was bummed that Daniels got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want him to come back, but like, I won't lie, that I do believe there's a chance that Jaden Daniels could have led that comeback with the way he was playing.
For sure.
If Bama had stalled on offense and LSU got one stop or something, it would have been a heck of an effort. I don't think it's likely that it would have happened. It did put a damper on the game. I will say that. It was a bummer to see him get hurt, but they say that's part of the game. My last really discussion topic on Bama LSU is 6 weeks ago, the idea that Alabama would be in this position, right? Be 7-1, still in the top 10, controlling their destiny. I mean, that was laughable.
Yeah.
We were so out of sorts. How do you feel about Bama right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, oh God, we're doing great, bud. Yeah. So no, it's all you. So you said 6 weeks ago it was laughable, 7 weeks ago, whatever.
Yeah.
Even 2.5 weeks ago, halftime at the Tennessee game, I still thought we were a 4-loss team. And then something clicked, I feel like, at halftime of that Tennessee game, and we've looked good and gotten steadily better.
Check our comments too.
But yeah, I mean, even after the USF game, like I thought we'd be lucky if we only had 4 losses.
Right.
I was thinking Tennessee was a loss, Texas we had already lost to, LSU, and then
perhaps
Kentucky,
a lot of teams.
So
how do you feel about him right now, sitting here on the couch?
If we play the way that we played in this LSU game, nobody beats us until potentially Georgia in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like Kentucky, I think we beat just fine. Then we've got our cupcake, Chattanooga, I think, and then Iron Bowl.
I'll take it a step further. I'll take it to, can Alabama win out? Can they win it all? When I say win out, beat Georgia and win 2 playoff games. Can they do that?
Can we? Yeah. We can. Georgia's scary.
Georgia's scary.
Georgia's scary. So I don't know. We have the potential. Again, if we play like we did through most of this game against LSU and like the second half of the Tennessee game, nobody beats us. Nobody in the country beats us. So yeah, if we can keep up that like improving every week and making the adjustments we need to, now that Milrose kind of like hit his stride and like knows that he can be a weapon, not just through the air, but like in general, then yeah, we can win out. So
that was the first game I think Alabama played a national championship level game.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the other really riveting game of the week, quality style game, and that was Washington beating USC 52-42. I'm going to pause the game so I can look at my notes. The another quarterbacks game. I mean, that was last year's Heisman winner, Caleb Williams, against Michael Penix, who was probably about tied with Jaden Daniels for the lead coming in. That really lived up to the billing. On top of that, the rushing attack from both teams, but especially Washington's Dylan Johnson, 256, 4 touchdowns. Hell of a game. Washington's
four
been
touchdowns?
4 touchdowns.
Jeez.
With 256. I mean, some really, really good games that Washington's played so far this year. How seriously are you taking Washington on a let's go win it all,
Yeah, I mean, they're good. I mean, obviously they are. They beat Oregon. Oregon is still in the picture. Like I still think Oregon could make the playoffs, but I think Oregon and Washington are probably going to play in the Pac-12 championship game, and that is going to be an incredible rematch. But yeah,
that's game of the year right there.
Yeah,
As of right now, that and Bama,
sure.
Georgia, if they do end up meeting, I mean, that is one of the better conference championship weekends I can think of, just with everything that's going. What happens to Georgia if Alabama beats them? Oh, we're getting there. Okay, we're gonna keep talking about Caleb Williams. I'm gonna ask about him. I'm gonna go off script a little bit before we dote too much on Washington. Caleb Williams, Heisman winner last year, so he was obviously the favorite coming in this year. USC has dropped 3 games.
Is it 3 in a row?
Not 3 in a row.
They won last
but they've
week,
dropped
right?
3 games, and he has been Heisman worthy.
Yeah.
So is Jaden Daniels, right? They've both been Heisman worthy, but let down by 2 horrific defenses.
Yeah.
USC and LSU's defenses are both atrocious. In my opinion, if LSU had a defense, they're the national champions this year.
Yeah.
Who's more upset in that right now, though? LSU fans or USC fans about the way their seasons turned out, given everything they had on offense going for them?
USC fans, I think. I think like USC fans came into the season like with Caleb Williams, Heisman winner. Like they thought that they were going to dominate. I think, and they looked like they were going to dominate early in the season too. So like, I think they are probably the most disappointed team in the country besides maybe Clemson.
Yeah,
this
and
year.
and you know, USC they haven't been to a playoff, and they haven't won a championship since we were kids with Reggie Bush. So probably 2005, 4, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would think that, and they fired the defensive coordinator. I mean, he's gone. He's jobless right now.
When did that happen?
That was yesterday.
Oh, did they really?
I mean, a couple weeks too late, but yeah, I mean, USC losing essentially eliminates them from the Pac-12 title chase, which I would have liked to see Caleb Williams in that game again, but Penix and Nix is looking a little bit better right now. So, like I said, with Washington and Oregon playing, if the chalk holds, if they play in the Pac-12 championship, that's got to end up being the most watched Pac-12 game ever. I mean, it'll be the last one
in a long time at least.
It'll be 2 dudes
I didn't even think
trying to win the Heisman against each other and go to the playoffs. It like, you know, the Pac-12 is dissolving. Not by their own choice, but they're dissolving next year. That's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, that's crazy to think that it will be the last Pac-12 game ever.
But what I don't understand right now, and this is a little annoyance I have with the way that this is being talked. I don't understand why Michael Penix Jr., as it stands right now, isn't the guy that the media is talking about as being the easy, basically walk-off Heisman winner right now. The far and away leader. He's beaten Oregon and USC. He's beaten a Heisman winner and a team that was in the top, 4 when he beat them. He's won all of his big games. He's come up in big moments. When Joe Burrow was doing this, we treated him like royalty. When Marcus Mariota was doing this, we treated him like royalty. Why is it Penix getting the automatic, like, unless he's beaten, he wins the Heisman treatment right now?
Because he plays for Washington.
That's a good
Because he plays for Washington and not Oregon.
And he transferred from Indiana. I mean, that's exactly why I just kind of needed you to say it.
So it's a combination of that and the fact that I think the next 2 people on the list are Jaden Daniels, who is incredible.
Yeah.
And then Bo Nix, who is in the same conference and putting up stupid numbers. So
you would just think in a year where Bama doesn't really have a true Heisman contender, Ohio State kind of does with Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's not really putting up Devontae Smith numbers, which is kind of what you're going to need to do to win the Heisman as a wide receiver now. Michigan doesn't really have one. You would think that just him standing alone would be enough. I mean, you could put Bo Nix up there, except the fact that he didn't win his big game.
If they win the Pac-12, he wins it for sure. I think if they lose the Pac-12 championship, then Bo Nix, I think, will probably end up taking like not only does that have playoff like implications, but the winner of that probably takes the Heisman.
I think if chalk holds the winner, that should win the Heisman.
Yeah.
But before we go to the next game, we have some comments that I want to get to. What happens to Georgia if Alabama beats them? That's a tough one, honestly.
Depends on how
because
badly.
We're looking at such a weird hodgepodge of potential one-loss conference champions. Texas could be one. Either Washington or Oregon could be one. Michigan, Ohio State could end up being one, or undefeated. Florida State. Really, the easiest thing for the playoff committee is if Florida State loses, because then that gets rid of an entire conference. But if they go undefeated, they have to be in just by virtue of being undefeated. So this is a weird year. Actually, I don't know that I think Georgia gets in if they lose to Bama. I don't think that they'll be in.
Yeah.
I think it would better serve them to lose to Ole Miss this week and then beat Bama, they'd still be in. But I think if they lose to Bama in that game, and Bama will just end up having to be the SEC
because
team that makes it. I don't think there's going to be two teams from a conference this year.
Yeah, because I think it's the winner of the Big Ten gets in, whether that's Michigan or Ohio State. Loser of that doesn't, even though they're going to be one loss. Mm-hmm. Winner of the SEC, Bama or Georgia, most likely. Winner of the Pac-12.
That's three easy
That's
there.
Three easy.
That's three easy
and
right
then
there.
I don't see Florida State losing. They're getting it. Like
right.
they have
if Florida State lost, you could maybe
if Florida State
Georgia
lost,
deserves to be in over a one-loss FSU, even though they won their conference. ACC is so down this year.
But then Georgia loses and Washington loses.
But then you got Texas if Texas wins out,
could,
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know that Georgia gets in if they lose. Like they did 2 years ago when Bama beat them, but there weren't enough other good and Georgia's defense was so insanely generational that year that they had that going for them. But Georgia really hasn't been that level that they were the last year. They're winning, which is
they're
good for them.
They're still really good. They're just not, especially their defense isn't the same level that it's been.
Who has a better special teams between Alabama and LSU? Well, Spencer's going to ask questions about special teams because that's his side of the ball.
Did I catch that?
I would say, despite the fact that Alabama missed 2 field goals in the game, Will Reichert is one of the best kickers in the country, and Burnip. Alabama was recently ranked the second best kicker-punter combo in the country.
Behind who?
But we don't have a great returner. I don't know that LSU does. It's pretty even. I'll go slightly Bama because they have 2 seniors kicking and punting. They just have upperclassmen that have been. I mean, Alabama's kicker set the record for kickers. Points by a kicker in college football history this weekend, actually. So I'll go Alabama. Ohio State is the next team I want to talk about. They struggled for a long time with Rutgers.
Yeah,
when I came here to see you on Saturday, they were losing. They were still losing when I got here, 9-7. They were losing for a pretty big chunk of that game. There was a pick 6 in the second half that put it away for Ohio State. But my question for you is, because they won, do we care anymore? This feels like the kind of game we only really care about at the end of the day if they lose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're on a collision course to Michigan. If they don't lose before then, the story will be the same.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Like either way, they won their game. Like, oh, that was dumb. Yeah, they won their game. Like it wasn't close at the end of the day. Like I mean. Every team here, like you want to talk about struggle wins. I mean, just look at Alabama the entire season.
Struggle wins against Rutgers, though. Struggle wins against Rutgers is tough.
We struggled against USF.
South Florida. So yeah, I mean that's a fair point. And there's not too much more I want to go into there.
It was a good game though. The first half of that game was like really
game,
good,
for real,
fun to watch.
Yeah, Georgia beating Missouri 30-21. Actually, I have a fair amount of things I want to say about this game.
Yeah, that game was not as close as I had thought it would be. I legitimately thought it would be a 3-point, 4-point game.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised that.
Like the score was within 1 or 2 scores the whole way through, but I never really felt like Georgia was going to lose.
Yeah, no, they had it.
What surprised me though is the way that Georgia had been playing the couple weeks before. I really, really thought Georgia had like very much turned the corner, as in. They're right back into the 2-time defending national champ scene, and they are going to run the table. I didn't think that any team was going to beat them, but Missouri showed that you can. They still have those beatable moments that we saw earlier in the season. Now, Missouri's a good team. We've talked a lot about him on the podcast for that reason. Luther Burden's a great receiver. Cook's been, for the most part, getting the job done at quarterback. They've beaten good teams. They've given other good teams like LSU fits, and they gave Georgia some trouble. Okay. My next question, I'm going to pause because I want to read this whole question. I like the way I typed it up. So Georgia hasn't lost a game, and we're going on very nearly now 2 calendar years.
Jeez.
It's been almost 2 full calendar years since they've lost a football game. Since Bama beat them with Bryce Young 2 years ago in the SEC championship.
Oh, jeez, you're right.
Now, they've got Ole Miss this week, which is a lot tougher of a game than it looked like a month ago. Tennessee, who's still pissed off. Alabama, who's going to be looking to make the playoff if Alabama makes it there. But likely, those are the 3 of their next 4 games. That is a gauntlet of a month.
Yes. They could very realistically not make the SEC championship.
Yeah, they could lose.
If they lose to Tennessee and Ole Miss and Missouri wins out, Missouri's only got one SEC loss, right? Or
they got 2.
Who was their other one?
Whoever...
Who did they lose to Ole Miss?
I think it was yeah. I mean, they lost one earlier in the season, kind of early on to like A&M or Ole Miss or something.
So maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe they wouldn't. They basically clinched it at this point. But realistically, they could enter the SEC championship with 2 losses.
What percent chance would you give them to lose a game? I want to ask Win out there. What percent chance do you think that they might actually drop one of those games?
I think there's a more realistic chance that they lose to Ole Miss. Like they very well could lose to Tennessee.
Yeah.
But like Ole Miss is sneaky. People are not like talking about them as much as they should. Like they showed up in the first CFP rankings as number 10, and I was like, wait, really? And then I looked and I was like, oh, their 1 losses to Alabama.
We all did the same thing with them, which is wake up, I think last week probably it was for me. I don't know if it was for you. And realize, they've got 1 loss.
Yeah, like if Bama loses to LSU, right? Like they're in the lead in the West.
Yeah, Ole Miss is winning the West if Bama loses Saturday. I did not see that coming. I think Tennessee is the one that will trip them up if they get tripped up because that game is on the road. Tennessee's looking for revenge from last year. Yeah, Tennessee's still pissed off. They don't like the way that the second half of their season's gone. They think they've been forgotten about. I think they're going to be looking to get to play spoiler for Georgia and be the team that knocks them off for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah. And I mean, they just came off of a joyless murder ball kind of game where I don't remember who they played, but they were ruthless to them.
I'm excited to watch that one. Texas, there were so many near upsets on top of the other upsets.
Yeah, it was the closest, like this entire week was like the closest to being a true chaos week. Like from the very beginning at 12 o'clock games started until the very end, I was like, we are so close to chaos week. And then it just didn't happen. There were a couple upsets, but like we very well could have had like 10 upsets.
Hold on. Where are we here? Oh, so yeah. Longhorns pretty lucky to still be in the college football playoff right now. I mean, they had every chance to lose that game. And
what do you think about K-State going for it?
I hated that play call at the end. I like going. Oh, no, I didn't like going. This is one of the rare times where I actually don't like them going for the touchdown. I think that they played such a clean game.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was it went to overtime, and Texas kicked a field goal to open up their end. So Kansas State wins it with a touchdown. They had 4th and goal. And instead of kicking the field goal, they decided to go for it and win it.
From like the 3, I think.
About the 3. About a 2-point conversion. And I usually am pro go for it in that situation.
Especially if because K-State was at home and they were the underdog.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And that wasn't a chance where I felt one team was like, that they were lucky to be in it. I think they were going tit for tat with them for forever there. So. And then the play call was just atrocious, and that was the end of the game. And Texas is lucky to still be alive. They've had their fair share of troubles since they beat Alabama, which is still the win of the year in college football right now. Nobody says that, but it's true. They need Quinn Ewers back really badly.
Yeah, for sure.
And not that Malik Murphy's terrible, and I do think he'll make a good quarterback for him if he's the one that ends up starting next year over Arch Manning, but
I mean, Quinn Ewers was like, until he got injured, was like the front runner or one of the front runners for the Heisman.
Yeah. Losing to Oklahoma didn't help his cause, but he was right up there towards the top.
Sure, yeah.
And he's that guy. I mean, he was the guy that was the number 1 recruit in high school. He's there to win games like that, and it'll be good to see him back here. And then Texas had despite the fact that they nearly lost to Kansas State, who they should never really lose to. They had a fantastic weekend. Texas fans are up this week. They're so happy right now.
Yeah.
Because Oklahoma lost in the last Bedlam game ever. Oklahoma going to the SEC next year, just like Texas. So they won't be playing Bedlam anymore against Oklahoma State. And they lose 27-24. My goodness. Yeah. Can you think of more of a team that peaked too early than Oklahoma?
Yeah, no.
I mean, that was they exited the playoff discussion as quickly as they entered it.
Yeah.
They beat Texas. They were right there. I mean, ESPN FPI was giving them, a 75% chance to make the playoff, and they lose to Kansas and Oklahoma State in back-to-back weeks, looking pretty horrible along the way while doing it.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't watch much of that game. Did they, actually look really bad, or did Oklahoma State actually?
They just don't. They weren't making the plays that they were making in the Texas game. Texas should have beat. Texas is a better football team than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma matched with them and kept making big play after big play. And I think Texas may have just underplayed against Oklahoma more than Oklahoma being what we thought that they were when they won that game.
Yeah,
which is a bummer. I really wanted to see Texas and Oklahoma play again.
I don't know.
Play one last time in the Big 12 championship before they both go to the SEC to go to the playoff.
Yeah, that's fair. That'd
would have been a great storyline time.
I always just Oklahoma State's one of those teams. It's I have no allegiance to them, but it's them and Oregon State. I have no idea why these two teams, but it's
it's always them up all the time. It's the same colors.
But it's always fun to watch them beat their big brother rivals. So I always cheer for them to take one home.
The last game that I want to really kind of break down and dive into is the Ole Miss 38-35 win over Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Again, like I was saying, it had to have maybe even been as late as Wednesday last week. This is week 10 of college football, and we all look up and we go, Lane Kiffin's got one loss.
And it's to Alabama.
If Bama loses, they're going to go play Georgia, and they play them in 2 weeks? Oh my goodness gracious. I've never been a November Lane Kiffin believer. That's been my thing with Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Is his football acumen seems to really die down the longer you go into the year. The one year that it didn't, in my mind, was the year that Alabama won the title with them with Derrick Henry, and it's because his job was easy. He just kept handing it off to Derrick Henry. He didn't have to call another play most of the time. So
who does Ole Miss still have on their schedule? So they play Georgia. They play Georgia, right?
And then they'll have Mississippi State. I think they should have one more SEC
Mississippi
game
State
before
is
that.
So bad, so they're winning that. They could realistically.
No, I think it's Mississippi State and Georgia, and then they'll have their sort of warm-up cupcake game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a legitimate chance that they are a one-loss team, not in the SEC championship.
So, I don't want to ask you what chances you're giving them to beat Georgia, because they are opening as double-digit underdogs. That's a weird way to ask that question. The question I do want to ask you is, pretend they do beat Georgia. Just pretend. They're on the road. They probably won't beat Georgia. They got to go into Sanford. That's hard. That's a hard place to win Sanford Stadium. But pretend they do. What happened? I mean, this is the game that since Kiffin was fired on the tarmac at USC. Remember that? He was fired at the airport. Since that day, this is the game he's been building his career back for.
If they don't get into the playoffs and that happens, Ole Miss fans lose their minds, because
even with the win, they are not in the SEC championship.
Because I mean, that was Bama. I don't remember what year, but several years ago, they won as a one-loss team.
Is that a way that the SEC can get 2 in? Right? Because their losses to Bama.
Ole Miss and Bama.
Both teams beat Georgia, and both teams have one loss. I would say still probably not.
But
if FSU lost, Texas
FSU loses,
another,
Texas loses.
There's a path.
There's a window. Who do Washington and Oregon play besides each other in the championship game? Could one of them? I
think they got Washington's got Washington State left. Obviously, they're both. I don't think that they play any of the tougher teams. They've gotten past the tough part of their schedule leading into December. It's going to be interesting. This part of the podcast, we normally I name off some other scores, and we'll just kind of give a very quick thought on it. Sure. We don't go into too in depth about this, but Michigan beating Purdue 41-13. Do you care to say anything about that, or are they just still rolling along in your mind?
There's always a chance that spoiler makers could show up, but Michigan's good. They're good at football.
Oregon going for style points, obviously. They're in that part of the year. Yeah. So 63-19 over Cal. This is a clear case of a team going for style points.
Yeah, and Oregon's incredible. I do think Oregon is better than Washington. I think they win the Pac-12 and get into the playoffs.
Clemson. Dabo's telling you that if you can buy stock in Clemson, buy it all out right now. He's still giving us credit comments. 31-23 though over Notre Dame.
Most shocking game of the day.
Yeah.
Like that was like one of the very few upsets that happened, but I thought Notre Dame would come out and just murder them. So fact that Clemson...
Can this put Clemson back on the right path, or is 4 losses too many for us to talk about them like that?
Season's a wash for them, regardless of what happens throughout. Like,
yeah, I guess the answer is Dabo actually going to hit the transfer portal or stick to his 1980s style of football?
Yeah.
Oregon State, Colorado. Colorado's now lost 6 of their last 7, I believe.
Oof, yeah.
It feels like forever ago that we were talking about them maybe being a 10-win team the way that they opened the season. I mean, the hyperbole that came out of week 1 with Colorado. I mean, that they haven't been a good story. Not that they haven't exceeded expectations. Not that Deion Sanders doesn't have a good thing going on.
They were ranked after week 3.
Yes.
Whatever,
but the amount of hyperbole that came out of it was crazy. Talking about them like they could go on and challenge Oregon in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Arkansas lost 6 games in a row and then proceeded to beat Florida in overtime.
Florida's so bad, though.
How is Florida pathetic?
So bad.
How is Florida so pathetic?
My favorite part is that they brought out these special uniforms that, first of all, looked terrible. And
Florida does not have special uniforms.
And then they lost to Arkansas. Hilarious.
Florida has one throwback uniform that I love. It's the one with the F on the. I don't know what they call it. But it's the one with the F on, and that should be the only alternate they wear if they don't want to make that their permanent, which they could. My goodness.
Oh God.
All right, now we move on to the pick'ems. This is where we just, I'm going to give you a spread, and you're going to tell me if you think they cover. It's very easy stuff. Alabama, minus 10.5 at Kentucky. Double-digit favorites now. We haven't been double-digit favorites in a minute.
Yeah, I think we cover that.
I actually do.
Close. I don't think it is a blowout, but I think we cover that.
Let's check our comments, too, before we go too much into that. Oh, let's see. Okay. We'll talk a little Miami FSU. Ralph Reynolds is covering Miami FSU this weekend because he works in Panama City, and it's a big game, man. Florida State's a double-digit favorite as well. I think I have them on here. No, I don't. But they're a double-digit favorite over Miami. What do you need to look for? Florida State has been coming out flat. Florida State is clearly far and away the best team in the ACC, but they come out and they play down to their competition too often. Miami is not better than Florida State. But this game could be close because the Noles do such a bad job of coming out and beating teams big that they should beat big. That hasn't been their moniker. They also have 2 really good receivers that didn't play last week, Keon Coleman and why did he run past him? Oh, my goodness gracious. Johnny Wilson. Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson are both potential day 1, day 2 picks in the NFL draft, and maybe the best pair of receivers in the country right now outside of the ones at LSU and Ohio State. So, yeah, Keon Coleman's awesome. I hope he makes an excellent catch. Are you? I'm going to ask you later, I suppose, or you can say in the comments if you're shooting that game because I'm going to want to see that footage. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, we got a lot of comments this week. Thank you guys so much. Fencer is shooting that. That's exciting. JMU, undefeated, fantastic. We've got a Patrick Clown in the comments.
Super unfortunate that they can't go to a bowl or like.
That's a great question. Hey, what is the MC jersey of the week? I actually have an answer for that. I don't have a picture of it, but I'll pull it up on my phone and just show you old school because it's actually.
Please say it's not the Florida.
It is not. Let's see. I gotta scroll a little bit. It is ECU, but the helmets they wore this past weekend, you saw them. Yeah. It was ECU with these helmets. Yeah, because that's not blurry. But yeah, she does have the helmets that ECU wore this past week. That's her one of the week. Okay, Alabama minus 10.5 at Kentucky. I do want to spend a little bit. Do you see a potential for a sleepwalking game for Alabama? Noon game, big rival win, all that stuff. Do you see any way that they kind of come out flat as they have been so prone to do? Or is Kentucky just too bad for us to consider that?
Kentucky's not bad,
not
so
bad.
So like it could happen, but normally like when those sleepwalking games happens, it happens after we've like murdered 7 teams in a row, and then we come out like against a team that we should murder again, and we're just not playing to our full potential. This season has been so weird for Alabama in that they haven't been playing to their potential until the last couple weeks. I think that kind of like trajectory that's honestly like more normal of like improving over time, I think they come out and like play the way they have the last several weeks. I don't think they destroy Kentucky because Kentucky is good, but like I think we cover that spread pretty easily.
We do always like to give a score prediction on the podcast for Alabama's games, so I haven't thought of one yet, but let's think of one real quick. I'm going to go 35-17.
Yeah, I like that.
And people go, Alabama's defense isn't giving up 35 or 17 to Kentucky. Man, I'm still sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm about the same, like 21-35. I think we win by Jesus Christ. I think we win by 2 touchdowns, give or take. Decently scoring game.
I do expect a slow first quarter. I don't expect a slow entire first half this week, but I do not think that they will. You know what? I know a quick way to score here. Watch this.
4 verts?
No, if I'm playing on varsity,
triple option?
I can just spam the read option probably to the end zone, or I'll fumble. Who knows? Actually, I'm not. You know what? We're gonna run it anyway.
Whoop.
Nope. Let's call timeout. I know I have one left. Michigan, 4.5-point favorites at Penn State. This is an interesting one because this is Penn State's first true test. I mean, genuinely first true test that they've had all season long.
Penn State's first?
I meant
or Michigan. Okay, I was going to say Penn State
ranked
played.
Team that Michigan's played, and we are to the second week in November.
Yeah, doesn't Michigan have the like hardest remaining strength of schedule in college football? I think it's
either Michigan or
up there.
Or
Georgia has
a good one, yeah. Which is fair because they haven't played anybody yet this year.
Yeah, Michigan 4.5. I think they cover that. I think they win by a touchdown.
I do too. I didn't see a ton from. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What an underthrow. Is it 4th and 7? The camera's blocking.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I gotta pick up a first down here.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Michigan's good. I think Michigan wins the Big Ten. I think they beat Ohio State for the third year in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they just take care of business. Oh, great throw.
Washington is a 9.5-point favorite against Utah, which this is, I guess we didn't mention Utah as a team that Washington's playing, but that is a team that can beat them.
Yeah, Utah is a trap game for every team they play. Like Utah could win any game.
They
like
beat USC twice last year.
Yeah, whether they're ranked or not, like Utah could win any game, surprisingly. So, with that said, I think Washington comes out and smokes them. Like, I don't think it's close.
I've got Utah covering.
Really?
I think this game's going to be closer than people think.
What was the spread again?
9.5.
9.5.
Yeah, I think Utah covers this. Did he catch that? Yeah. I can't exactly tell you why. I just think Utah is really good at getting up for these games.
Here's the thing. Utah got murdered by who was it? USC.
Mm-hmm.
Game day was in Salt Lake, and like I had Utah winning that game, and I think if that Utah team shows up, Washington will score 50 on them if that kind of Utah team shows up. So it depends who shows up, but I think Washington wins pretty easily.
Interesting spread here. Tennessee is only a 1-point favorite against Mizzou.
1 point.
1 point. I mean, it's just too easy with Milroe.
Yeah. This is why I shouldn't play. I mean, you're doing fine without me. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee wins that game regardless. So, yeah.
I think Tennessee crushes them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like that 1 point. I know Missouri's been good, but I just... People fall off on teams like Tennessee because they lost that... I guess we'll count that. Because they lost that one game to Alabama, but Tennessee is just as good as they have been. They're better than Missouri.
Yeah.
I know they're at Missouri, but I'm not afraid to play there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know if they destroy... Like, Tennessee wins the game regardless. I think it's a touchdown or two. So
Georgia 10.5 at Ole Miss. No, at home, I should say. At home against Ole Miss, 10.5. Big spread for a top 10 matchup, but makes sense.
Georgia does not cover that.
They don't. I think they do easily.
You think Georgia beats them by more than 10?
I do.
Really?
I still don't find myself believing in November Kiffin. I know that he beat Jimbo last week, but I mean,
but it's also A&M.
A&M season. Like A&M season is over as Clemson's. I mean, it's done. So I'm not gonna get all. And they beat them by 3. You know, they didn't go out and crush A&M.
Yeah.
A&M could have won that game. I'm not impressed with what Ole Miss did last week. If you want to talk to me about it, I mean, we talked about them as a potential playoff team this couple minutes ago, sort of handed tongue in cheek, but no, I don't see Lane Kiffin having anything for Kirby Smart in November right now.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think this is a 17-point loss or more.
I think.
Love to be wrong.
I think either it is a shootout style game and Georgia wins a close one, or it's a shootout style game and Ole Miss wins a close one. I do not think it is either way. I don't think it's a blowout. I think it's a very close game.
How about our last one on here? Oh, this spread's just huge. This is a huge spread. Oregon 16.5 against USC. What on earth? Nice sack, by the way.
I was not controlling that player. Oregon 16.5 at USC.
At home against USC, but
yeah, they cover that.
You think they beat them by 17 or more?
Yeah, Oregon is scary good, I think.
They are scary good.
Oregon should be undefeated if their coach didn't make bonehead decisions. I'm still mad about.
So Washington just beat USC by 10. Do you think that Oregon is 7 points better than that at home against them is kind of the question.
Yes.
One more full touchdown better.
Yeah.
The more I talk myself into it, the better of a spread
I think Oregon beats them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think they come out and destroy them.
Caleb Williams against Knicks. That's Caleb Williams. I'm having a hard time seeing Caleb Williams.
He's not looked good.
Losing to He's looked awesome. Well, he's looked very good. I won't say awesome. He hasn't been as good as last year.
Yeah, fair enough.
That defense is the problem. Man, that USC defense. They did fire their defensive coordinator though, so I'm gonna give them a positive for that. I'm gonna say USC covers just barely, like a 13. They lose by 13 or 15. I don't know. Interesting. Well, I'd like to see. I'm gonna be interested to see who's right about that next week. Okay, so that's us talking about the games. Now just a couple more discussion topics before we wrap up.
Great comeback.
Hey, great win, great dub. We can start another one because we got a couple more things. So we do have to talk about the Michigan sign stealing thing. I've sort of avoided it as much as I could on the podcast for a while. Like we've touched on it, and I went on a very heated rant about it probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. But the longer this lingers and the more messy the playoff is looking, the more of a big deal it is.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think the NCAA should do here, or Big Ten, or anybody? Or, I mean, we all know probably nothing happens. But
No, nothing's going to happen. At least not this season.
Yeah.
Like maybe they, in the off season, they actually do an investigation or whatever and whatever. But like, I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think they're going to do anything this season. I'm honestly kind of similar to you. I'm just tired of hearing about it. The only football thing that I am more tired of hearing about is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I'm so sick of hearing about Michigan and the sign stealing thing. It's like if they were going to do something, they would have done something. Like, do I think they should do something? Yes. If they violate, it seems pretty clear that they violated a whole lot of rules and sent whatever this dude's name, Connor Stallions, whatever, to steal signs. Like, the evidence seems pretty damning. They should do something. I don't think they're going to.
The rumor I saw was like another suspension for Harbaugh, like a 2-game or 3, like something small. Here's my thing. They were caught this year.
Yes.
Cheating.
Yeah.
Right? Breaking the, like you heard Norwood say at the top of the podcast, like actively cheating. Very recently, I put on Arizona State.
And cheating in a way that actually has legitimate impact about the game. So like
competitive advantages.
You think back to, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago when USC had to vacate all of their wins and because of what was it, Reggie Bush?
Yeah.
Like they paid him or whatever.
Right.
That had no actual impact on the competitiveness of the game or whatever, because everybody was doing it at that point. It's a serious thing and they should do something. The reason I'm so sick of hearing about it is because they would have done. Oh, that was dumb. Because if they were gonna do something, they would have done something by now. But they're just twiddling their thumbs, and it's
and the timing of it is awkward because you know how slow the NCAA moves. Plus, investigations take a while, no matter who's doing the investigating, but especially in the case of the NCAA. And you know, Michigan is the odds-on favorite to win it all right now. I mean, they are the national championship betting favorites on a lot of sites and a lot of sports books. Yeah, above Georgia. They haven't come close to losing. Michigan's looked more solid wall to wall. They've had less hiccups. They do probably everything at a higher level right now against lower competition. Obviously, they haven't played a ranked team, but this sign stealing thing matters. I mean, it genuinely matters.
Yeah.
If they're obviously currently not still doing it, and they're still winning their games, you know, without doing it.
Are you sure they're not still doing it?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but an example should be made of them. I don't know that it will be made of them, and I don't know what example needs to be made, but it's messy, man. I don't have anything else really to go, and I'm glad I don't have to be the one that does this. Heisman odds. Who do you like to win it? I'm not asking who the favorite is right now. Who do you think wins it in December?
It's between, I think, Jaden Daniels and I'm blanking on his name, Washington's quarterback. Penix, I think it's between the two of them.
I might actually lean Bo Nix right now. Oddly enough, I don't think Washington makes the playoff, which is gonna I'm about to ask that question too. That's gonna be my last question before we just talk or do whatever we want, or end the stream if we want. I think Bo Nix. I don't think Washington beats Oregon in a rematch. And I don't think Penix is going to win the Heisman if he loses that last game of the season.
That's fair. Yeah,
right? Even though Caleb Williams did. But
if Bo Nix comes out and puts on a performance against Washington,
I think that's what's going to happen. I think Milroe's too late.
I don't think Milroe's
right.
Yeah.
If he'd been playing like this a month ago, yes,
he would have to put up like god numbers in the next 4 weeks. So.
I don't think he deserves that. I don't think you can't spend half of your season playing legitimately not very good football and win the Heisman.
Yeah.
And Marvin Harrison Jr., if he has a couple big catches against Michigan, would be another guy I'd put in there. I guess I'd have to go Bo Nix. There's not a ton of guys right now.
Yeah, it's a quarterback race this year. Like I don't think.
All right, so give me your 4 teams in the playoff.
Ooh,
this is the tough one. This is the question that separates the men from the boys at this point of the year.
Yeah. Take that because I can't do both at the same time and think. But I would say I don't see Florida State losing, and I think they win out there and they have the easiest road there. Mm-hmm. And then the tricky thing is it's winner of the Pac-12, winner of the SEC, winner of the Big Ten, I think are the 3 in. So I think it's going to be Oregon, Michigan, and Georgia. So I think Oregon, Michigan, Georgia, Florida State is the 4. I think Bama loses to Georgia in the SEC championship.
I'm going to go Oregon goes in as the 1 seed.
Ooh. That'd be fun.
I think
I don't think that happens if Michigan wins out to get in,
Ohio State. Yeah, I'm already talking myself out of this. I'm going to put Ohio State in. I don't have Michigan beating them anymore.
Really?
No, because I'm tired of Michigan.
Fair enough.
I don't have quantifiable data.
No real reason for it other than don't like them. Nope.
If anybody wants to call me out in a month and tell me I was wrong, so be it. I'm going to go Ohio State. I'm going to go Alabama.
It's my favorite way.
Alabama's
It's
winning out.
my
They're
favorite
gonna
way
beat
to
Georgia.
pick games. It's
Right?
just like I don't like them.
Alabama's going to win out. They're going to beat Georgia because I want it to happen, just like the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, and Oregon. That'll be my 4. Now, not in that order. Florida State will be the 4, despite being undefeated. Yeah, okay, I can live with that. Now I know that Alabama has very little chance of actually beating Georgia, but he's a little bit slower than Milroe.
Just slightly.
But let's talk. Give me the rugby. So Parker's a big rugby guy. Give me a little rugby update. What's going on in the world of rugby these days?
Rugby World Cup just ended a couple weeks ago. Was New Zealand versus South Africa. South Africa won. Good game. It was a good match. Yeah, I think it was like they won by 3 points or something like that. But yeah, so now Premiership Rugby, which is the main league that I follow in the UK, is starting up in the last few weeks.
Who's your squad?
Bristol Bears. Yeah, I lived in Bristol for 4 years, so they're a very meh team. They're not good. They're not great. But yeah, it's fun. One other thing before we forget, we have to mention the fact that Mississippi State had a 12-minute drive that resulted in their only 3 points of the game.
Yeah.
Amazing.
12-minute drive.
Absolutely incredible.
I don't even want to watch
Is
that
that,
game. I like hearing about it, but I don't want to watch that.
No, not at all. But how do you even take 12 minutes for a drive? How does that happen? Like, mathematically.
Is this going to be a touchdown up the seam? He's double covered, but I'm throwing it anyway. Easy.
Oh, nailed it.
What do I need to know about hockey so far into the year? I'm not, how are your Preds doing? But then on top of that, who's the best team in the league, and then how are my Florida Panthers doing?
The Preds are the best 500 team in the league. We are going to be right in the middle the entire season. I think like consistently we win a game, lose a game, win 2, lose 2.
Can you win and this is me not knowing anything about hockey. Can you win a Stanley Cup being that type of can you get hot and win it all being one of those 500 teams?
Because of the way that like getting into the playoff system works, so it's based off of points, not record. Like that would be really tricky to get enough points to even make the playoffs.
Because the reason I ask is like in the NBA, because it's 7-game series, it's not like baseball where like there's enough randomness that a team like the Diamondbacks can make the World Series. Yeah. Like in the NBA, it's usually the cream rises at the top, right? Usually the best teams. Occasionally teams get upset in the playoffs, but usually the 1 or 2 seeds are always sort of there at the end. LeBron's usually there at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that the way it kind of works in hockey, or do you see? Is it more like baseball where like the Diamondbacks can get hot?
There's much more randomness, and you run into a hot goalie can make or break your playoff run. So I mean,
I just realized I didn't even have this game up here anyway.
Oh, it's okay. So there's 8 teams per conference get into the playoffs, and multiple times the number 8 has made it to the Stanley Cup or won the Stanley Cup. Like it can happen. I think
that's very rare.
LA in like 2011, 2012 won. Nashville, when we made it to the playoffs, we were the last team into the playoffs, and then we went to the Stanley Cup. So it's definitely possible, but like where we're going right now, we need to start winning more games than we're losing if we're going to even get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
For the Preds. But yeah, good teams this year. Vegas is scary good. They won the Stanley Cup last year and have returned basically their whole squad. They're very good and scary.
I learned
Boston,
the dumbest thing about
Colorado,
hockey recently, by the way.
What's that?
So, when they add an expansion team, like Vegas a couple years ago, they get their pick of basically, like, there's not enough protected players in hockey, it sounds like. Basically, you just go steal, like, some of your best players. Like, in football, like, when they added the Texans when we were kids, like, teams can protect a ton of players, and then the Texans are just left to pick from the scraps, and they always are terrible. But, like, expansion teams are always good starting out in hockey because they just get to pick a bunch of insanely good players.
It historically was not like that. So They changed the rule. So up until like the mid 90s or whatever, there was, I don't know, like 22, 24 teams in the NHL. And then they had, in the late 90s and early 2000s, a bunch of expansions that brought it up to 30 teams. And that's where it was for 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And all of those expansion teams back in the 90s and early 2000s were hot garbage for the longest time. Nashville included in that, like, because the rules for the expansion were not beneficial to those teams. So the two most recent expansion teams, Vegas and Seattle, they changed the rules and limited the number of players that you could protect. So you could protect all of your superstars pretty easily, and everybody did. But basically every team had to have one or multiple players that were like good players, not like superstars, best players ever, but like pretty decent. So like Vegas, when they first entered the league, that was
a fake field goal.
Interesting decision.
I tried a bunch of plays I never try.
Yeah.
That is so
Vegas,
weird, though.
yeah, Vegas. I think their first year, they made it to the Stanley Cup. They lost to somebody that I can't remember who.
Get a couple more.
But yeah, they were good right off the bat, and Seattle is okay. Yeah, I mean Vegas has been in the league. Geez, he just got trucked. Vegas has been in the league 4 years, 5 years now.
Yeah.
And they won a Stanley Cup.
Right.
And there are like 5 teams from that expansion era in the 90s and early 2000s that have not won a team. Like Nashville hasn't. Columbus Blue Jackets haven't.
We've got what happens. Yeah. Andrew had a typo on this one because he said what happens if the new NCAA game is bad. But what he meant to say, what happens when it's bad. And I'll still buy it on every console that I have to buy it on unless it's crossplay. And
yeah, I don't like buying sports games
I will be
most of the
online.
time, but I will be getting NCAA. Like it's been 10 years. Like I have to get it. Like
I'll be pissed if I don't do an online dynasty with Andrew and you and Norwood. I'll have like 9 going. I used to in college. Like I had like 3 or 4 different online dynasties.
Are they going to do crossplay?
It was real back then.
It, you know.
Well, Andrew's saying in the comments that the new Madden is crossplay, which I didn't know because I haven't really checked into Madden in a while. But if it has crossplay, then I only have to buy it once. But I will, if it doesn't have crossplay, I will be buying it for Xbox and PlayStation, even if it sucks.
Yeah.
Genuinely, even if it's, I just have multiple leagues of people that I want to be playing.
Yeah.
That's the most hyped I've ever been for a video game that I know going in is going to suck ass. Like I know it's going to suck because it's made by EA, and, you know, but and they're going to find a way to put Ultimate Team in there, and you're going to be, you know,
I can't wait for all the paywalls.
I need to try to get my Tim Tebow card, or I can spend $75 right now on one kind of deal.
No.
Anyway, I don't think I've got anything else. And I'm getting a little hungry, which is kind of why I'm sort of ending the stream. I'm thinking about the leftovers I have waiting for me.
Not had dinner either, so.
Well, we broke records with the amount of comments and congruent streamers we had, so you should be on here more often. And
anytime.
Yeah, thanks for filling in.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. I'm happy to take over for Norwood permanently.
Well, if I had my way, you would be on here every week. We'll just get more people. We'll get more co-hosts. All right, appreciate you guys watching. Check us out next week about the same time. See you then.